I graduated from Buffalo State College for Television Film Arts in 2013 and kind of just jumped into the local film industry from there.
And Harry?
Cool. Harry Lipsitz, graduated from Point Park University, a film conservatory in downtown Pittsburgh, concentrated there in producing. I'm a production manager, and I do casting, and one of the co-founders of Casting Buffalo. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And Peter?
Cool. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Peter Johnson. I am an actor, filmmaker. I'm also a professor at Buffalo State College in their theater department. I went to film school in New York City, at New York Film Academy. I also have a master's degree in media study from the University of Buffalo. And I am the third installment of Casting Buffalo as well.
All right. Thank you guys very much for being here. Peter, I'd like to start you off with the first question. Can you just tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you got started in the film industry?
Gotcha. I'm a Buffalonian. You know, I grew up here in this area. And I started off kind of not knowing what I wanted to do. You know, I was, you know, kind of following a musical career for a long time, just not knowing what I wanted to do. And ironically, I moved out of Buffalo. I was living in North Carolina, and that's kind of where I got involved in theater. And that's, you know, where the kind of the acting bug bit me. So from there, I went to New York City, enrolled in film school, and I moved back to Buffalo. And I'm a theater guy, so I worked in Buffalo's theater probably for 10 to 15 years. I've worked at almost every theater within Buffalo. And at that point, that's right when the film boom started to hit in Buffalo. I had a friend that came here, Johnny Abraham, that was shooting a film, and, you know, good actors know other good actors. So he asked for my assistance in casting. I also had a part in that film, and that's kind of where I hooked up with my partners, Kyle Mecca, Harry Lipsitz. And then from there, it was kind of like a snowball effect. I was, you know, able to work in several films as an actor, but then also work on the casting side as well. And, you know, being on both sides is very tricky, you know, as well. But I can be honest and say that as an actor, I became a much better actor when I got a chance to really study the art of casting. When I got a chance to really study auditioning techniques and to see what the mistakes that other actors were making, that improved me as an actor, you know, as well. So it's a tough balance, you know, but part of it is knowing your actor type, you know, knowing what roles you're good for, what roles you're not good for. So I try to, even on the casting side, I try not to audition for everything because I know the roles that I'm really good for and the ones that I'm not. You know, so it's definitely trying to balance as well.
Thank you. Pass it off to Harry. Same question.
So, yeah, born and raised, bleed Buffalo. Very proud to be a Buffalonian. When I went to film school in Pittsburgh, I definitely didn't think that I would really be coming back to Buffalo. I was certainly surprised, but nonetheless, very pleased and happy to be able to come back to Buffalo and live and work, and consider myself to be very lucky to be able to work in the industry that, you know, I went to school for. So that's certainly something that I'm certainly lucky and happy about. I would say I got my start with Peter Johnson, really in the casting world, assisting him on that particular film that he spoke about, which was 2 for 1, or also known as All at Once. And I was just assisting him with background at the time. But that's kind of like where I first dove in there. And then from there, you know, Peter, Kyle, and I continued to work and do casting on Marshall and some other projects as well. And I do, you know, like I said, I do production managing as well when I can on commercial work or, you know, film work as well. And yeah, I think I answered that, didn't I?
Yeah, thank you. And then Kyle, where are you from and how'd you get your start?
Well, I'm not from Buffalo. I'm from 5 minutes away in Kenmore. So, but close enough. No, so I'm a Buffalonian as well. And I kind of got my start after I graduated from Buffalo State. I was kind of in the situation that most new students come out of, which is just, what do I do? Where do I go? And I think what's great about what that school has done is now created more opportunities for people to go outside of, I don't know where I'm going to go. Do I go to New York City? I go to LA. And I kind of just met a lot of people through that program and locally that we ended up developing and creating a feature film that I wrote and directed called Dwelling. And that kind of kickstarted me inside the business. There's something to do. Let's just make our own film. So I directed and was able to cast, my own cast and go through LA and Chicago and New York and stuff like that. So that experience really, really helped me. After Dwelling, after that was distributed, I kind of fell into working with ND Studios and became an assistant director with them, and then spawned out to going from assistant directing in a lot of other films and working as PAs on bigger films like Ninja Turtles 2 and Quiet Place and Catfish and a lot of other smaller stuff like that. But then when Marshall came into town in 2016 or something like that, when they came into town, it was kind of the biggest movie that's been around here in a while that was going to really employ a ton of people, and a lot of people were trying to get into the film industry. And I got a phone call from one of our local godfathers, Rich Wall, and was like, hey, we're doing a film. We're looking to do, we want to do extras casting, but we want to keep it in the film family and not go somewhere else. And he's like, I'd be wondering if you want to come in and interview and talk about it. And I came in and I got the job, and I immediately reached out to Peter and Harry. Peter was already working on it with Frank Rossi, assisting him for day players and stuff like that. And Harry was trying to get in, and we were like, okay, well, let's just team together and let's, go after this monster. Was, over 500 extras and crazy monster. And from there, that's where we kind of met. And after that, we had films coming in like True Adventures of Wolf Boy, in which I was able to step up as a day player, doing casting for day players and local casting, and brought Harry in on that. And then for Bashira, after that, I brought the entire team together, bringing Peter back as well. And we worked on background and day players together and various other smaller projects. And then that's kind of like how we got into the casting business together.
Very cool. Thank you, guys. I know it's really helpful for people that are trying to get their start to learn kind of where the first points were for the people that are working right now. Harry, I'll bring it back to you. Can you talk a little bit about your current position in the industry, in Casting Buffalo, and maybe some of the positions you do outside of the company? Where are you at right now?
Sure. So I have managed some other companies in the past. I know related to film production in Pittsburgh and here in Buffalo as well. I had a business partner, Joe Giambra, that I worked with, and we had a company for a while together. I do, like I had mentioned before, I do quite a bit of production managing when it relates to commercial work, short films, things like that. I think of myself as, being a real hands-on producer. I like to be very much involved in the process, and I like to be as supportive as I can be in that role, which is really what you're there to do. I think it's important understanding kind of, as a producer, one thing that they teach you in film school is they try to give you a real keen understanding and keen sense of the real basic fundamentals of every facet of filmmaking. And I think that is something that is really invaluable, because it helps you to sort of understand what everybody's going through when you're working through a process, and it helps you to, I think, be much more effective and to contribute in the best possible way that you can. So that's kind of how I consider myself to be a producer, how I like to approach things, and how I kind of learned what I know now and what I am, I guess.
Thank you. Kyle, I'll pass the same question off to you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I do, mostly I do assistant directing, either through, which a lot of film terms I'm going to go through right now. So it's going to be, so assistant directing is going to be your assistant director. You're going to help more run the set. And I've done every facet from that, from second ADing, which is going to be, you know, more dealing with background on the other end, which once you're there as background, that I'm going to kind of help give the directions, put you in place, you guys, block you guys out, help you with your vouchers, stuff like that. So I'm kind of like the key person for that. Second ADing, which is going to deal with more of the organizations for the next day and the day-to-day, dealing with call sheets and other stuff like that. And then first AD, which is what I mainly do now and worked my way up to, which is basically run the set. You're communicating with every single department, and you're making sure that the film is staying on schedule, on task, shot by shot, and making sure the thing happens in a timely manner. So that's what I mostly do right now, other than casting. And casting was kind of one of those things that we kind of fell into, and I kind of fell in love with, because first and foremost, you know, I like to think of myself or want to be more as a director. And I was able to direct a feature and able to, you know, experience that firsthand of casting for my own stuff. But now I've done, you know, directed a lot more commercial stuff, like videos, stuff like that for different organizations and clients, and interview style. But I think the directing aspect and the assistant directing aspect, especially the second, has been extremely valuable when it comes to casting, because you get a different point of view. You know what I mean? It's going to help you. Direct and casting are very, very married. They're married. And you won't have one without the other. And knowing that how I should have a vision, how I should be able to communicate with a director and what they're looking for, helps me be able to make our casting department that much more valuable and bring much more, I think, experience to even casting people inside the film, getting exactly what they want. And then on set, you know, like being the experience of being an AD is that I'm able to know right away the people who I need that are going to follow the direction, that fit a look that I've had experience with before, that I know I can bring in and be like, oh, they've done this before, they understand how the set works. But then also bringing in new people who are eager to get on set to learn about it. And you can kind of pick that apart by saying, okay, I'd rather have someone who's in for it than someone who's just trying to get a paycheck type thing, you know. So it's all valuable information, but I'm just kind of in the middle of it all. And I think for years I used to just call myself like the utility guy in Buffalo, because I kind of try to get my hands dirty in every single department, because for me it's always goes back to directing, and that's how I want to learn everything, is being able to communicate with everyone.
Very cool, thank you. And then finally, Peter, where are you at in your career right now?
Well, outside of the casting business, I'm an actor first. You know, I tell that to people all the time. You know, I do have a lot of casting experience, you know, but, you know, first and foremost, I'm an actor. And, you know, because of that, I dedicate, you know, the majority of my time towards acting experiences. So, you know, the main thing is I'm also a professor at Buffalo State College. I got to give a shout out. I got two students on here, two former students, Mary, Eddie, and Crystalise. Hey, y'all. But I dedicate my time as a professor to passing on that, you know, a lot of the nuggets that I have experienced, you know, and that I have found as an actor. I try to pass that on to other students, you know, so they can become more knowledgeable about the characters that they can become, and about how to analyze sides in a script and things of that sort, how to dissect it. But, you know, outside of the teaching, you know, again, as an actor, I'm always constantly seeking out new work, constantly combing through Actors Access, calling different agents and trying to find the work. And even outside of that, you know, when the work isn't available, you know, as Kyle stated, you know, in this business, you kind of have to have a knack of doing a lot of different things. So I try to write, you know, and I've had a chance to produce and even direct a couple shorts that I have been able to create myself. So what I do is outside of the acting, I tried to write different roles that I would want to see myself playing, you know, and I try to challenge myself as an actor where these are the roles that I want to see myself playing. So if I can't find an opportunity to play that, I'll create it for myself, you know, and that is something that I try to challenge myself as an actor, you know. So yeah, that's where I am in my career. It's more so if I'm not casting, I'm doing everything I can, whether it's teaching acting or just exploring different acting opportunities.
That's awesome. It's very encouraging that the three of you are not in a box. You know, you're not, well, you're physically in a box right now, but I mean, like, you're not just you're not just one thing. You are experiencing things outside of your job. But I do want to bring it back to Kyle right now about the actual casting department. When you are first brought onto a project or a film producer comes to you, what is like step one? What is the first thing that kind of gets the ball rolling when someone comes to casting Buffalo?
You want to know about the project, so you want to know the script. If there's a script, you want to know exactly what we're casting. We want to know the roles that we're actually being brought in. You know what I mean? So it's finding that marriage of then, you know, communication. You know, and as my partners know and anybody who I've worked with, you know, I'm gigantic on communication. So I think it's reading the script, understanding where they're coming from, and then having that communication with your director, with your producers to exactly figure out what their needs are. And your assistant directors to figure out what are their needs, what is their visions, and trying to marry yourself to what they need. Because you're basically just an extension of what they are, and they have so much more they have to worry about, and now you're on the other side trying to make it their life easier for them, pretty much. And have to be that filter. So that filter of making sure that you know what you want, but also giving them options that they might not necessarily expect, because you don't always want to just give the same, you know, flat line to them. You want to give them something that, you know, they might ask for someone who's between the age of 57 to 56, but we might want to give them a little bit younger, you know, a little bit lower, you know, and try to give them a range, because people in the acting world, it isn't about the age you want in the script, it's about what you can play. So, I mean, you might have people who are older, younger, and all that can play that role. So, I mean, it's really just getting into breaking that down, finding the vision, and also creating a relationship with that director, because like you are an extension, is just you want to understand, and that's a big part. And I think with Peter being an actor, Harry being a producer, me being a director as well, is that we all have those different lines of communication, and being able to break down and understand where those projects are coming from, or even like break down the script and figure out exactly what they need from that character. And, you know, mostly what it depends on is, like, if it's background, then it's basically just counting down, you know, what scenes are going to acquire background. And usually it's just like one slug line within an exposition inside of a script, you know, but then we go and sit down with the director and the assistant directors, and usually they're given a budget on what the background number is, how many they need. And that's something they always fight with the production manager on what they need budgetary wise. But this is what we want. So this is our wish list. So that's the first thing we get from them, is a wish list, first scene. Each scene, break down what scene that they need it for, what details, and we go by everything. We go by ethnicity, we go by age, we go by sometimes by sizing, because if you're doing a movie like Marshall, you know, back in the 40s, the clothes are very, very small. So you really can't, you can only go so big on certain sizes and stuff like that, which is tough for us, because it's just like, well, we're not discriminating. It's just, this is the cards we're dealt, you know? And I think that's a lot of things that people don't really understand sometimes with casting, is like, well, why didn't I get that role and stuff like that, is that when you read the script, that's when you find out the specifics of what the vision is. And you have to go by that. So sometimes it isn't just that you don't get the thing because you're not good enough. It's just, you visually just don't fit exactly with the directors, you know, so you're trying to find that peg hole that you're putting that in to fit, and you have hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people that you're trying to fit. And sometimes they might not know what they want until they see it. So that's why we're always giving as many options as possible and trying to do stuff like that.
And even just to piggyback off what Kyle is saying, is that, see, for casting Buffalo, we have, you know, a text group, you know, with all the guys, and we're in constant communication, like all day long, every day. And even after we do the breakdown from the script, we had those conversations with the directors about, the wish list. What do they see? Then it's a constant communication amongst the group, because now we go back to our actual database, right? And that's one of the things that was beneficial for all of us, because with Kyle working on different films, Harry working on another film, I'm working on another film, we had an opportunity to combine all of our databases, right? And that's, for all the actors that are listening, it's important. Get on our radars. Go to the website. Make sure you submit yourself. Submit, all your measurements. If you have new headshots, make sure you're constantly updating that information to us, right? Because once we get our breakdown, now we're going back to the actors and we're trying to find who fits what part, right? And then even further, once we have those headshots, then we're going back to actors and we're requesting audition tapes. For all the actors that are listening, it's going to be very extinct going forward that you're going to find open casting calls where you have the casting director sitting, putting you there on tape, right? Like, that's not where the industry is going. That's not where, the I guess for technology, it's just not happening. So for a lot of actors that are listening, it's in your benefit to master how to do a self-tape audition, right? The better your self-tape looks, okay, the more lit we can see, the more we can see your eye lines, where you're establishing who you're talking to and things of that sort, the better you have an opportunity, the better chances you have of getting that role, because you're going to stand out. As a collective, when it comes to a role, we watch a surplus of 200 to 300 auditions for one role, right? And I tell people all the time, it's kind of like, and for a lot of people that are listening, maybe, maybe you've been on an airplane, maybe you haven't, right? But a lot of times when you have that air flight, that's the flight attendant that's kind of doing just the instructions when you're getting on, fasten your seatbelts, blah, blah, blah. It's so routine that a lot of the passengers, we don't even listen anymore, right? Until you have that one flight attendant that does something different, and then it's like, oh, everyone on the plane perks up and they're like, oh, that's something different. Well, it's the same analogy for us when we're watching audition tapes, right? It's the same, we're watching people do the same thing over and over again. And then you have one person that finds they make a decision, or they're doing something just a slightly different than everybody. Now they stand out. So that's how your audition tape now gets forwarded to that director, all right? And the director sees the exact same thing. We don't make the decisions on the casting, but when you come in and your headshot looks the part, your audition tape looks the part, now you're setting yourself in a better position to actually get that role.
Yeah, and I think especially going back to like directors and projects or anything like that, they're about specifics. They're about special needs. And if you're able, if you're being a casting director, or if you're being an actor trying to get cast in a role, giving us those up-to-date headshots, getting up-to-date headshots are going to help us match up to exactly what those special needs are. Because we have some people, who submitted headshots, and I know that the last time they got it was like 2003. And we're like, okay, well, we know he doesn't look like that person now. So I have to literally go say, okay, I respect your work, but I have to go give me an updated photo for that. But if you keep up to date on those needs, and so we have a new headshot, we see what you look, you're better chance of getting into the specifics. And the same thing with audition tapes. Always try to make a bold choice. Even if it's the wackiest, weirdest thing that you've ever done, if it seems over the top, whatever, make a bold choice, because you're going to get noticed. And that's what you're going to be looking for. And that's why it's always make that choice, because now that you know that you're aware that a lot of the same things are going to be uniformed and the same thing over and over and over and over again, it's knowing that going into it or looking for something, that bold choice is going to stand out even more. And especially knowing that directors are going to looking for specifics. So if you read something the one way, sure, you can do a reading that way that you feel like it comes up with, but then throw something totally different at it and look at it in a different eye, because that might be something that, even if, and this happens sometimes, even if you don't fit necessarily that role, but you gave a performance that's something that caught our eye and attention and saw that, okay, you did something impactful, a director, even us, might turn around and say, try out for this role. Director might come back and say, I might I might, yeah, try for this. Oh, I'm thinking about, it might even change the entire look of what they thought the character was inside the first place and all that. And then that's where the collaboration comes in, because in the end, this is all collaboration and storytelling. And just picture yourself already being a part of that collaboration when you're making even an audition tape.
Thank you. Harry, I'll wrap this question up with you. Can you speak a little more specifically, that day one, is that very different whether you're on a big budget or an indie film, or is it kind of the same process regardless?
So I just want to say in regards to like background and casting specifically for background, my my former business partner and late mentor, Joe Giambra, was in a film that was shot in Buffalo, one of the few films that had been shot in Buffalo through the decades, and that was Hide in Plain Sight. Some of you might know James Caan. He was one of the main actors in that movie. And one of the extras casting directors for that movie who hired Joe Giambra to be in the background in that movie was Scott Rudin, who is now a huge producer. And he got his start as a background casting director. And Joe Giambra told me once that he told Joe, after he hired him to be in Hide in Plain Sight, that casting directors, background casting directors specifically, are the art directors for people. And that's something that has really stuck with me, and something that, like when you said what day one is like, I think, first of all, I try to remind myself whenever I read the script and I look at the breakdown, if I'm doing background casting or casting, I think to myself about that, about art director for the people, for people. You're placing people in the same sense that an art director would be looking for, as color, aesthetic, patterns, things that relate to setting the scene in a film. You're doing that too. And so I try as much as I can, I try to put myself in that scene, and, like Kyle said, we got to read the script. We got to do a breakdown. That's something all three of us go through together and we would confer on. And another big thing that I'll just mention and talk about is the communication factor. Once you set up from day one, it's critical that you start to establish your lines of communication, and how that's going to work. And hopefully it works well. And I'll tell you, just as an example, on The True Adventures of Wolf Boy, I got lucky because I was doing background casting. I had the director who kind of didn't communicate very well, in my opinion, with me. And I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was really going to be tough to get decisions from him. And it was something that kind of really had this impending anxiety on me, because I was like, well, like when things, like, how am I going to get any answers from him? Because he wasn't really talking to me. So I got really close with the AD, the second AD. And he and I had a really good relationship. We communicated really well. He helped me out and I helped him out. And, there was this really good rapport we had with each other. And I think it's just really important. Those things are super critical from the get-go.
All right. Thank you all.
Yeah, can I just jump in real quick too? Like jumping on the lines of communication too. And, and like you mentioned before, it's just you're finding your ways, because then after day one, getting into later, sometimes we're casting day players background, even any type of speaking roles, while they're starting to shoot the film. They're shooting, but they're necessarily don't shoot for the third week or fourth week, and we're still casting. So how do you get that line of communication when a director's on set for 13 hours a day? How do you get that information back and forth? And then they have to have all these other answers once they're done, and then watch dailies. Some people go edit, all this different stuff. How do you do that? So going through an AD, if they have an personal assistant, making a communication there, making it easy by putting it all online, just providing them a link that they literally can just click on whenever they want and check boxes and boom, boom, boom. This is what I like, what I don't. getting manual feedback. When you're in an office, you know, it's making sure becoming a partner enough that you can walk into the office and sit there and say, hey, you got a second? Take a look at this. But then we even get creative. Like Harry got really, really super creative on Wolf Boy. And we started printing photos of every single background actor that he possibly was looking at. And we just put it on, plastered it on walls, either in the hallway or in our office. So even when the director was walking through, he could visually see exactly what we're looking for. And he can walk over with a pen and go, no, 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 yes, 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 no, 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 if it's visually oriented and stuff like that. So it's getting creative is also with those communication and all that. Because, you know, sometimes it might not be that, you know, you might feel that the communication's bad, but you also have to realize that as a director, your mind's everywhere. You're spread thin. So it's getting creative of how you can benefit each other, you know.
Thank you all. I'm going to bring it back to Peter for our next question, just kind of about the day-to-day. And I know you're going to have a unique perspective because you've been on both sides of the casting table. Can you talk a little bit about what that process looks like on a day-to-day basis when you're on a film and how you approach that both as an actor and as maybe a casting director?
Yeah, I think speaking again on both sides, right? And so the guys kind of just went into it a little bit, but I think when you are working on a film, one of the main things that you have to focus on is problem solving, right? There are so many problems that happen on a movie set you would not even believe, right? So like you have, whether it's an indie set or this is a major film, you have anywhere from 20 to maybe 200 to 300 people on set. And everyone has their own issues that they, you know, I can't get my lights, or I can't get this, and I can't get that, or I can't get answers. And the main thing that you have to do, whether you're a producer, you're in the casting side, and even as an actor, because sometimes as an actor, they may not give you answers on, you know, the choices that you're making. They may not give you the answers on your wardrobe choices right away. Like, you have to learn how to problem solve. And if you learn how to problem solve and not be someone else's problem, then you will survive in this industry, right? Like, you can't, it's impossible to wait around, right? If as casting directors, if Harry had to wait around until he had a meeting with that director to make his choices, his job wouldn't have gotten done. You know what I'm saying? As an actor, for me, like, even if I'm on set and I have questions about either my wardrobe or I have questions about my performance, then it's up to me to make a decision and go with it until someone says, no, let's change that, right? Like, it's very much, you know, on that day-to-day basis, you have to be able to problem solve and make decisions at a rapid pace, because, and that's another thing, when you're on a film set, everything changes. Nothing stays the same, right? Like, the shooting schedule will change, the actors' call times will change, you know, the cars that are on the Beyonce, like, everything changes. So if you don't have the ability to be able to adapt, adjust, problem solve, make those decisions, then the film industry, you're not going to last at all. So again, on a day-to-day basis, it's confusion. It's dealing with a ton of different problems. Everybody has their own problems. But again, it's knowing how to problem solve, how to adjust and adapt, because nothing stays the same on a movie set.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good point. I'll pass it off to Harry and then Kyle. Harry, can you talk a little bit how that day-to-day has changed this year since the pandemic?
Sure. So, yeah, I'll get into that for sure. I want to say too, I just want to mention that being in the casting business is very much, you know, you got to be a people person. The casting business itself is very much a people business. And to further elaborate on that, and Peter kind of touched on this, talking about how many people are on a given set at any time. You know, you have the way casting is looked at in the eyes of a union is that they fall into Teamsters, and Teamsters make up casting, locations, and transportation. And really, those three things our groups together because it's about people and people moving and the movement of people, right? So when you think about it like that, it kind of helps you to understand, I think, what casting is, and as it relates to a day-to-day basis, like Peter said too, you know, it's like it for me as a producer, it relates very heavily to producing too, because you could have to put fires out constantly sometimes. You know what I mean? You're dealing with so many different variables, and you got to be ready. You got to be prepared. You could get a phone call in the middle of the night that, you know, things are totally changed and you need to start finding people for the next day. And that wasn't what you were planning on doing. And then, you know, with COVID now, you're throwing a whole nother thing into the mix. You know, it's difficult for people it's difficult for the film industry to kind of navigate through all of these new hoops and hurdles that they're facing, because, you know, doing our job directly in contact and face to face, you know, is way more efficient and helps us do things way better, you know. And now we have to become way more reliant on the use of Zoom, like we're doing now. And, you know, like Peter had mentioned earlier too, the future of, you know, sending auditions in and stuff like that, and attending very large open casting calls, that's not going to be a thing anymore because of COVID. You know, it's really not, and not anytime soon. If it becomes a thing, it's going to be, you know, after we've figured a lot of things out, and who knows when that is, you know. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle, adaptability seems to be the theme of the question here. On your day-to-day, how does that play in from like the beginning of the production all the way towards the end? Because you guys are involved the whole time, right?
Yeah, it's, you know, we're mostly involved until everyone's pretty much cast. Then once everyone's cast, once that final deal memo goes out, or if you're doing background, then when that final day of casting is, then you're kind of done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's something that I think there's a reason why they're called casting directors. And it's because directors need to make quick decisions and give answers and know and have vision. And even in your position, you have to be able to do all those things on a different scale with so many different people. The day-to-day has really changed now because there's all these additional questions that were brought up. So if we're doing local casting, if we're doing major casting, we have to look and say, okay, not only are they good enough for the role, where are they located? Are they located? Have they traveled lately? Where are they coming from? And listening to state and, you know, federal guidelines and stuff like that. Are COVID tests involved in the production? Scheduling them for COVID tests, like how it's all these additional questions that now become work questions, and something that even the Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA are figuring out as well. And we have to be able to adapt not only to a feature film and actors, but to a union that's trying to make sure to protect their people, but also make sure that jobs still work and still happen. So it's a lot more of juggling in learning about new questions and asking companies and figuring out their point of view on stuff. Because, you know, from my AD background, it has to do with safety. You know, once they get on set, it's not only just doing before set, you get the role, but once you're on set, once you go on set, like I want to make sure that our actors are going to be safe on set too. They're going to be taken care of, that are going to be treated well, you know, because sometimes people look at background or even other actors in general as just, you know, that they're, I guess as the famous Alfred Hitchcock said, is that actors are like cattle. And unfortunately, some people in this industry think that way. So I think as a casting director is that you're defending both ends. You want to make sure that you do your job, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you keep your reputation, and through that, making sure that you're creating safety and that they are treated well and getting that feedback and changing day to day. And now this new wrench in the gears has just kind of turned everything topsy-turvy a little bit. But it's very much like with the adaptability,
Sure.
doing things more online, changing that point of view. You know, I would love to go, and we've done it plenty of times. I'd love to have a gigantic open audition and meet people, because that's where you really get personalities. Sometimes you don't get a personality, you just see a character through that. And is me being a people person and as a director, from my point of view, sometimes personalities win over on certain things, and especially for like background or even day players, because day players might just be a convenience store clerk, and sometimes we're asked and tasked to go do street casting. And with street casting, it's basically go out and find the people who really do the job, but someone who has a personality that works within the world that we're creating. So it's disheartening, because it's like I'm not able to be with those people and realize those personalities, and now it makes it a lot harder, I think, for actors, but more streamlined for us, because now it's literally like, okay, we're going to get the 2-minute audition from you, and that's your shot. And that's all I have to go by, you know. So it's streamlined for us, but at the same time, there's other factors that are lost from it. And I think that's something that's happening not only in film, the casting department, or film making in general, but I think a lot of other industries and working environments is just, they need to adapt and figure it out. And a lot of the ways of before are now becoming more streamlined and simplified, and things that there's probably some things that we should have been doing like this for a long time now that we just haven't. And now it's like we're getting our ass kicked in the gears doing it a certain way, but at the same time, other things are lost. So I think eventually, once things do kind of glaze over, is that it's finding that balance. Right. And taking what works now on the day-to-day and mix it with what worked back then in the day-to-day.
Oh, good. I'm glad we're all optimistic about coming out of the other end of this, maybe better, maybe, like you said, doing things that we should have been doing all along. We're going to move on to a question about collaboration, which I know we've touched on. Harry, I want to start with you. Who does the casting department collaborate with the most often?
So it kind of depends on at what stage you're talking about, but I think as it relates to background, I'll talk and say that definitely wardrobe is probably, I would say, probably the heaviest in correspondence and communication. You know, but you're going to be talking really to almost everybody. I mean, not every department, but you're going to talk to, you may very well have to talk to hair and makeup if it's a period thing, or if it's not even. You may have to talk to some folks in the art department for props. You know what I mean? That's something that happens because they want either to know what people look like, or they want to see if they can source certain props from people already. There's a multitude of things. So there's really a lot of different departments that you're going to be talking to. But I would say wardrobe and ADs, you know, probably the biggest.
Yeah. Okay. Kyle, you mentioned Rich Wall earlier on. Do you guys work with the Film Commission in Buffalo?
I mean, not as often. I think it's more in the beginning of when jobs come through, is kind of making sure that, you know, what's great about the Film Commission is that they're, at least Buffalo, is very, very local oriented and very loyal to local. So what's great about them is they try to make sure that the people from Buffalo get the jobs in Buffalo. So with that, I think that communication is always key to make sure that we're able to, if we're asked upon doing a duty, is making sure that we deliver on that duty, because it's not only just representative of what they're asking for, it's representative of the city. and what makes Buffalo Buffalo. But like even getting back to what Harry was saying, like on Marshall, we had a chance to work with the great Ruth Carter, who's an incredible costume designer who actually won Academy Award for Black Panther. And that was pretty much my day one, was to sit in a room with Ruth Carter and go and break down the script with her and get her vision. Because just like Harry said before, you're kind of like the art director of people. And with it being a period piece, I want to make sure that we are basically on the same exact page, and that we're working hand in hand to make sure that that creates. Because her art in a period piece is what the background and the day players are wearing. So we're giving them the people that she's going to create the art on top of. So what was wonderful is that she had such a great vision. And I think what was good about Reggie Hunland, who is the director, is that he was very, very good at collaboration, in which he had his people who had the experience of being in the industry for a long period of time, so he could lean on them. He gave them a direct line of vision, and then they ran with it. And that was something Ruth did. And I felt I was very, very lucky, especially with Harry and Peter, is that we all got exactly what she was going for. We knew exactly the looks that she wanted. She knew exactly the faces that she wanted. And we went back and forth, and we were just sharing, basically creating like lookbooks of just people on the internet, of like what they should look like and what clothes and how they would fit a certain thing, and going back and forth. And that was an amazing experience to do. And I think wardrobe is incredibly important when it comes to background. And makeup, the same thing on the other side too, with getting into HMU, is because now they're going to be adding more to it. So if you're doing a period piece, they have to do hair a certain style, which means that you can't have highlights or something like that. Or they have to find out, are you allergic to anything? Do you need to come prepared a certain way before you come to set? What are you going through? Are there stations you have to go through? And that line of communication is great. The last line, like what Harry said, is the AD department, mostly because they're going to be the one hurting the crowd and placing people. And so we after we do the breakdowns initially, and figuring out exactly what they want, numbers wise, and detail wise and stuff like that. Once it comes to the day, it's then giving them a rap sheet pretty much, that when they come in, this is who they're going to expect. Here's the names. This is the breakdown of what you're going to get on that day. And keeping them up to date if we need to add or people drop out or something like that. Because there was a scenario on Marshall, I think it was like the second to last day, and we didn't wrap until like 2-3 a.m. And then, we had director or producer come to me and basically was like, we need 20 more people. Okay, by tomorrow. When are we starting? 7 a.m. Okay. How am I going to get people within 4 hours, 20 more people within 4 hours? And then that's where the problem solving comes into.
Sure. Sure. And then Peter, are there any people or departments that maybe some of our viewers, when they think casting department, they don't expect to be working closely with, that your experience has actually shown you that you end up working a lot with?
Again, it's a process, right? So like, Harry kind of touched on it as well. Once we get our final picks for day players from the director's choice, we might work with the production manager regarding deal memos, right? So like they want to make sure that they get these actors locked in. So we're, now getting that. Then if it's a SAG production, we're also, depending on how many SAG people we have, we're also working back and forth with SAG, making sure that we have all the SAG clearances that we need in order for those actors to work. Then once we have all the clearances and everyone's hired, then it's more so getting them fitted, with the wardrobe department, scheduling them to get, their outfits and everything done. Then from there, after they've gotten that done, they may, be scheduled, we might be working with it's most likely the second AD, making sure that they got them scheduled for that day. You know what I mean? And when they get to set, so now we're making sure that, hey, we might, if they're late or something, the AD's giving us a call. Where's this actor? Where are they at? They are on set. Now we're trying to hunt down the actor as well. So again, there's a lot of different elements as the production's going on, from start to finish. Again, we're collaborating with SAG, we're collaborating with, the directors, we're collaborating with the production team to make sure that, their budgets are, that they get their deal memos. Then we're collaborating with hair and makeup and wardrobe, and then the ADs from there. And then it could be even something like, I've had situations where, actors are, or, so maybe sometimes background actors are getting problems on set. Right. So then now you're dealing with production assistants, and you're dealing with maybe the second to get these people out of here. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's a lot of different collaborative efforts. Just because, you're in that casting department, you are literally working nonstop with other departments until that actor's job is done. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's not so much until, our last day and we're like, oh, well, we're done. It's until that actor has wrapped, or that those background actors for that day have wrapped. You know what I mean? Because until then, we're still dealing with their problems, the problems that they're giving the set. You know what I mean? That falls right back on us. You know what I mean? So until all of the actors that we cast are done, that's when our job is done.
Gotcha. So we are running a little long here. From now on, I'm going to kind of just open up the rest of our questions to whoever wants to take the lead. The next one, I'm hoping a lot of our viewers are interested in getting into the casting department, maybe starting out as a casting assistant. What kind of qualities are you guys looking for in a potential casting assistant on your team?
I'll start. So availability is one, and two is just having the go-getting mentality, having that ambition to work ethic, which I think works at any position as being an assistant or an intern or entry-level job, is that we want to see that. We want to see that you want it, and that you're interested in the industry, because it's a great way to view it, because you're working with all these departments on the inside and having collaborative efforts and stuff like that, is that, and if you're good at it, I guess the other big thing is, I should stop and say it, is organization. Organization is gigantic in casting, because you have hundreds, sometimes thousands of names, and with them comes all these details, right? So their photo, their ethnicity, their sizes, if they're SAG, do they have to be Taft-Hartley'd? Taft-Hartley is basically getting a voucher that the production is going to give to an actor, that they're going to become SAG eligible in order to join a union and stuff like that. Then we might have to do the Taft-Hartleys as well for them. So it's keeping all that organization. And then if we're doing in-person auditions, is making sure that we're in constant communication of, basically scheduling those auditions so they're happening. So organization is gigantic, and making sure that we can get a constant flow of communication, where we might have to call, they're calling for 150 extras tomorrow background, that we all have to call to give them this information, because things have changed last minute, or things that need to be due. And so it's people person, organization, and ambition for me is the top three qualities I like. And communication is gigantic for me, because if you show that passion, and we've had plenty of amazing assistants in the past and interns who've came in and shown that like, we'll give you a little bit more than what we normally would, because we know you can handle it, but also that you want it. And it's going to make you learn more and appreciate it more and stuff like that, because we aren't going to give you anything that you can't handle. And if you're showing that you can handle a little bit more, we're going to, and you see that you're up to the challenge, we're going to give that to you and all that, and start looking you as a partner, because, you know, we appreciate what you're bringing to the table and all that as well.
You know what? I just want to just jump in real quick. You know, Kyle mentioned, and I said this as well, I was reiterating, you know, all of us come from, you know, we have different skill sets. We come together to form Casting Buffalo because we're all passionate, right? So like, you have to have so many different skill sets in order to survive in this industry. You can't just have to say, oh, this is my job and this is the only thing I want to do. You know what I mean? Whether you're going from the indie film world or and showing your value on a major production, right? You got to have a lot of different skill sets. I know that like there's a person on here right now. I want to give props to Caitlyn Stevenson. Like Caitlyn, let me just tell you, she is a hustler. She is hungry. And one of the things that I love about her is that she is so hungry. She's worked with me being an assistant, you know, casting. She's also an actress as well. She's someone that wants it, right? And like, that's what I look for when I'm looking for someone to help me or to assist me, right? Like Kyle hit all those other things, like the organization, you know, the communication. But for me, like, if you want it, if you are hungry, you know what I'm saying? And that is like, that means I'll do whatever it takes. Like, okay, let's, you know, if you want me to be a casting assistant, you want me to call these people, you want me to send emails, like, how, you know, she's looking at it from the acting standpoint as well. She's so hungry, and it reminds me so much of myself. So like for me, just speaking, like I look for someone that's passionate and that wants it. You know what I mean? If you can display those things to me, then if you're organized and you communicate, those are just like the gravy on the rice for me. You know what I mean? But like the rest is like, I just need you to be passionate and hungry about it.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I want to ask a little bit about maybe some tricks of the trade, some lessons that you want to teach our viewers now that maybe you wish you had known before you got into the casting department or earlier on that you kind of had to learn the hard way. Any experiences like that?
Oh man, everything. Literally everything. Because we were all thrown into it in certain ways. So I mean, I'm trying to think of like one specific one. I think it comes down to communication. So for us is just like, I remember like at Marshall, us figuring out how to contact so many people in so little amount of time and making sure that they actually confirm that they're going to do things. Because of course, Buffalo, when we started this, Buffalo was kind of really green to film, especially background acting. So it was, how do we get people to answer their phone, answer their email, answer anything to be like, are you going to be there tomorrow, even though we booked you for money, you know, or dates have changed and stuff like that. And that was a gigantic learning curve, because it's just like, how do we even communicate with people who are new to it, green to it? Because I don't know, it was a tough learning curve, and it was, like we started by doing like hotlines, you can call a hotline and stuff like that. But now I think like with us, now that we've built a base and had the experience, and people even in Western New York area have kind of learned how the process works mostly. I think we've adapted to it and stuff like that. I don't know.
Well, for me, it was like, what I will tell everyone that's watching is like, you're gonna make mistakes, right?
Oh, sure.
The whole point is tweaking and changing as you go along. You're like, the only way you learn, and every single one of us in our different jobs and our different perspectives have made a ton of freaking mistakes. You know what I'm saying? The whole point is that you gotta learn from it. I'm gonna tell a really quick story. And this was like it was a scary mistake for me, but it taught me so much. I was working on The Purge. I was the casting director for there. And I made the mistake of getting very comfortable with the director and the producers and things of that sort. And on a regular basis, like we were having lunch together, and there was something that had happened in this area where people had found out that The Purge was shooting here, and like there was this rumor going around town of like a real purge about to happen, right? Like in a local park. And it was like, hey, everyone, you know, it was like all these text messages and emails going around, like meet at Martin Luther King Park at 1 a.m. and bring your knives and stuff like that. Like, and I just thought that it would be, you know, maybe a potential problem. So like during lunch, I just casually said it to the director. I was like, hey, did you know this was happening? Blah, blah, blah. Now he kind of shrugged it off. He was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. I would say about 15 minutes later after lunch, the producer pulled me to the side and chewed my black ass out, right? And why he did that was because he only wanted the director to be focused on the film, right? Do not bring to him any other issues that have nothing to do outside of this film. His job as a director is to be focused on the vision, the shots, everything else, and me bringing something to his attention that was outside of that in Hollywood, a huge no-no. I thought I was gonna get fired. Like I was like, oh man, like I'm about, this is my last day. It was very innocent, you know, on my behalf, but it was a lesson that I had to learn. That listen, you know what? If it's not pertaining to the movie, like do not mention anything to the director, to the producer, like anything that's going to corrode their vision at all, leave it alone. That was like, I just had to tell that story because like I was like, I thought I was gonna get fired. I was like, man, this is crazy.
And
Harry, any hard lessons that you learned?
I mean, just one thing that I would say real briefly is that one thing I did learn was like definitely don't show all your cards. And what I mean by that is like, you know, when you're in casting, you wanna show that you have the best of the best to offer, you know what I mean? But one thing that you should do is probably not show everything you got right away, because they want to know that, you know, they may pull a fast one on you and tell you that they need somebody and you didn't expect that they were going to be needed, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, look, you have this person in your back pocket you were holding on to. So that kind of idea, you know?
Sure.
I think the last one I just want to jump in is, it's something that I think is blanketed in the entire film industry, is learning to have thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because, and I got to say, if you're coming in as an intern or as an assistant in casting, you don't need to have the thickest skin compared to most departments, but you need to learn how to have thick skin, because something as simple as, like what Peter said, the innocence, something like that, things change so fast on a dime, and there's so many moving parts, and there's so many people that are going through so many more problems than you are, that you don't know what they're going through, that sometimes the buck is passed to the next person. Sometimes you make mistakes, and be willing and be fine with those mistakes, because you are going to learn from those mistakes. And, you know, even if it means you're getting chewed out, or even if it's just a nice talking to her, or a nice, or an email that just, you know, is towards you and all that, is be fine with making mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. You are going to learn from those mistakes. And whatever happens, if you get chewed out, if it's something tough or thrown at you that you might get anxiety from, that you might feel like you're going to get fired from and all that, it's the film industry. And with that, within 5 minutes, something else is going to change. And that another thing is going to happen. And now you're in the past.
Somebody else is going to get chewed out. Hey,
Yeah.
Right,
you're only getting chewed out for the moment. This
Yeah.
is somebody else's ass is next.
It's just like back in high school. It's day-to-day drama, and you go do something embarrassing, in the next 5 minutes, the next story of the entire school is just something else. And so it's making sure that you then take that in account, and making sure that you then change things, so then you don't get chewed out again and again and again. Type thing. But learning from those mistakes, but it's okay to make them. And that's something I remember making, you know, calling out to our interns and assistants and all that. I'd rather have you make the mistake and you tell me right away, so then this way we can, as a group, collaborate in figuring out how to fix it, than holding on to something and us never knowing about it, you know? And I say that as an AD too. It's just like, I need to know. what problems are and what's going on, because I'm going to help you. I will rather help you make it better and fix it. So this way you know how to address it in the future than just holding it in and just, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. To our viewers, take notes if you're watching this now or watching it later on YouTube or Facebook, because these are a lot of great nuggets of knowledge from these guys. As we approach the Q&A, I want to ask just about Casting Buffalo specifically. Can anyone talk about kind of how you guys came together, where you got the idea, and what are you looking for as far as like hopes for the future?
Here you go.
So, in terms of the hopes for the future, I think, you know, we definitely want to help in putting Buffalo more on the map in regards to not only bringing work here, but also helping actors from this area get work outside of Buffalo as well. I think both of those two goals are things that we're working hard and fast towards, really helping to just strengthen and you know make more of an impact in those areas. And you know, definitely given the way COVID has impacted the business, we want to, you know, roll with that and roll with the punches in the best way that we can and help to sort of, you know, help to carry the industry in any way that we can and support the industry in any way that we can and you know, making projects happen still, you know, during this tough time and whatever that means, you know. I think the three of us are all very keen to have pride for not only this local region, but we also understand independent filmmakers, the struggles they go through and other, you know, local filmmakers here. So we want to continue to support their efforts and you know, what's going on in the community here too. So those sort of things. Kyle, you got any?
Yeah, I think for Casting Buffalo, we want to serve the film renaissance happening here. And you know, I saw Dan's question down here. He's talking about the mention of the new studio coming in on Niagara Street. And for us is just making sure that we're building our people skills, building our network, our lines of communication with people, that if and when we do get something large scale, that we're ready for it, and that we're ready for it as a community, and making sure that Casting Buffalo is, you know, a brother in that community, a brother, just they're a main player, and that we have the people of Buffalo behind us ready to join the fight, you know.
And there was, I don't know if I had missed that part, I had to step away, but Dan, to answer your question, has there been any discussions about those projects? Yes, right? So like we were already contacted about, you know, a potential cop show that was, you know, looking to come into town. They wanted to be confident that we had enough actors here to be able to cast that show. You know what I'm saying? So I think that right now it's the buzz is definitely going around the industry that this studio is going to become available. There are definitely studios and companies interested. You know, people are poking around, but just the fact that like it's not even up and running and we've already been contacted, you know, about this potential show that was coming in town, it's a good sign, man. You know, we don't know if it's, you know, if that's going to happen, if it was greenlit, but we had to send, you know, a surplus of what was about 200 to 300 actors that we felt that were, you know, fit for this particular casting, you know, and they wanted to feel comfortable that, hey, if we do go to Buffalo, that we have a good surplus of actors to choose from.
All right. Well, I want to have our last question here. I do actually want to hear from all three of you. We really can't talk about the responsibilities of the casting department without talking about representation, because you guys have such a strong influence on who ends up playing these characters and showing up on film. I'll pose this to all three of you. How is Casting Buffalo specifically working to ensure that films have diverse and accurate representation in their casts?
That's tough, man. You know, just speaking, you know, as an African American actor, man, like it's extremely tough, and that's something that, you know, as an African American, I struggle with, right? Like, why a lot of my other friends that are African American, the actors, that they have left. You know what I'm saying? Because of, you know, they feel like, hey, there's in a lot of cases there's a shortage of roles, you know, for Black actors. It's not something that we can necessarily control, right? Like, it's not, you know, we get instructions on what they're looking for, but what we try to do, one of the things that we definitely try to do, is that when it's not something that is ethnicity specific, then we make it a point to get a diverse choice of auditions in there, right? Like, that's what we, you know, we definitely try to do, unless it's something that is, you know, race specific, that they say, hey, no, we need it, you know, to be this. I know for me, just speaking, you know, like I said, as an African American actor, that's something that I'm always looking for, because for me, I have those challenges of saying, hey, that there's a shortage of Black actors or African American cast. So I'm always looking for something that is not race specific. When it says any ethnicity, then I'm looking even deeper into it to say, hey, is this something that I could fit? So I encourage, you know, actors of color, you know, other minority actors to say, hey, when it's not something that is race specific, definitely submit for it, because that's what we want, right? We want to be able to submit. And as Kyle said earlier, there's a lot of times that the director doesn't know what they want until they see it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a good chance that, hey, even though it doesn't state an ethnicity specific, you know, if you audition for it, you're a person of color, you know, you know, they're looking for diversity, you know, and that's also been, you know, given the state that our country is in right now, it's something that I can say that a lot of productions are leaning towards. They're saying, hey, look, you know, we need to we need to change this thing up. I work a lot on the indies, you know, the small Fred Olin Ray movies that come to town. And that's what they're saying to me all the time. Look, we can't have all these white people in here. You know, that's what they tell me. Look, we got to change it up. So that's something that, even though we don't control, when we have the ability to make it diverse as possible, we definitely try to do that.
Yeah. It's like the palette that you would have if you're a painter, to take it back to the art director for people analogy. Your palette, if it's just got one or two colors on it, it's going to be looking pretty bland. So we try always, the three of us, unless it's something like Peter said, we try to give a palette that is representational of everybody and is like that flag that's right behind Robin.
and on adding to that, it's like, for me, it's also pushing not being gender specific and stuff that would, you can look at roles and something that might just, you know, call for a man in one role, but it's like, have you thought about a woman in this role and stuff like that? Have you thought about someone who's trans in this role? Have you thought of, you know, and I think, at least I've seen from and I've even heard from Hollywood and deep in Hollywood and stuff like that, is that now, even in writing a script, that they're already starting to look at it like how Peter said, where it's like, we have to make changes. We have to look at things a different way. And I know from insiders from other bigger companies that even in the writing of it, it's already changing. And now in the casting, it's a big deal to making sure that we get a diverse crowd and that it's on the forefront. And I just hope it sprinkles down to the indies as well. And that there's someday that, you know, us even throwing out our palette to them, that it's something already built into the writing and in the direction right off the bat, that we can just, you know, open up our palette and know that everything's going to be okay and everything's going to be equality across the board.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Those are a lot of great answers. We're going to open up to the Q&A right now, but first I want to just shout out to Hannah Waltz and Robin Lazara for doing all the behind the scenes work that it takes to put all this together. Thank you guys. And if you have a question, please just use the little reaction button or physically wave if we can see you here, and we'll just kind of go one by one. And if you want a specific member of our team now to answer, just specify that with your question. So anybody want to go first? Yes. Catherine Schneider.
So going back to what Kyle said about casting, say a clerk, just going into a store and getting a clerk, do you think it would be helpful to list all your previous jobs on your resume? I've been in so many different jobs, from daycares to gas station attendant to banking. Would that help in a situation?
Peter, you might be able to answer this better than me, I think.
Well, I tell you what, one of the things for me is like, you know, when it comes to resumes, I think that it's good that you list stuff on your resume, but in all honesty, the resume is to primarily let us know that you have experience, like you have some acting experience, you've done this before, you know, but ultimately it's going to come down to your look and your skill level. And one of the things I'll be honest with you, like, what actors tend to do too much is that they and this is a lot with women in particular, they don't dress for the part, right? So like if it's a clerk, do your research and give me what type of clerk are you? What's your income level, right? Are you a rich clerk? And dress the part. What a lot of women do in particular is that they take the role and they want to make it a glamour shot. Well, listen, if you're a clerk in a, you know, if we're going to use that inner city neighborhood, or, you know what I mean, then guess what? I can't have you in there looking like America's Next Top Model. You know what I'm saying? So you have to also dress the part. And again, what it's going to require you to do is characterization. Even though it may say clerk, do your research and tell us, what type of clerk are you? Are you the clerk with the attitude? Are you the nice clerk? Are you the clerk that didn't get her hair done today? You know, were you struggling with the kids today? Give me some more character involved in it, and that will help you. You know what I mean? Like, your resume telling me that you played it before, it's good, but that may not be applicable to the type of role that they're looking for now. And you going forward with it and making up and giving that character a backstory, and it shows on screen, that's going to help you stand apart. You know what I'm saying? Not because you've played it in the past. It's going to be the presentation that you're giving now.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else have a question? Yes, Marietti.
Hi. So as Peter said earlier, I'm an actor first. I've done acting for as long as I can remember, but especially during quarantine, I've had a lot of time to reflect and watch all these movies and TV shows, and I'm just seeing so many things that, I don't know, I'm just learning a lot. So lately I've been thinking of getting more into casting or production side of things, and I was actually supposed to move to New York City earlier this year, but then COVID happened, so hopefully I'm moving within a few months. I guess my question is, should I just jump right into looking for work, like interning, or go to a film school?
I think interning is going to teach you a lot more than you think, and especially like film schools are good. If you want to be a filmmaker, I think a lot of the filmmakers or film schools are there to give you the opportunity to work on a film or network. That's what they're there for. And then from there, after you graduate from film school, you use that network that you created within each other, or if they offered things, to then go get an intern job. So if you have an ability to try to get an internship right off the bat, or try to go for it, do it, because you're not going to learn probably even more than 80% of the specifics that we even talked about on the Zoom call in film school. You just got to go do it. You got to go and be an intern, be thrown into the thick of it, and you learn the pacing, you learn how it's going to work, and all of the communication and the job levels and stuff like that. And that's something I always push for, is finding internships. Even if it's a free internship or something like that, getting experience to get on set, to get in that office, to learn the stuff. The information you're going to get is totally different and more worthwhile, because now you're on a different facet of what film is, and you're on the business side of it, and learning that. And the creative side's what you're going to learn in film school, but the business aspect, which is 50-50 of this film thing, you won't learn unless you have an internship and all that. So if you are interested in getting into casting, I know New York City is going to be a lot more hands in the pot, but try to get into an internship and all that. And if you are from Western New York and you are stranded here because of COVID or something, or an opportunity comes out here, reach out to us and all that. We'd love to, bring to learn and stuff like that.
Mary mentioned Mary was one of my students, man, and I mean, Mary can act. She can act her ass off, right? Like, that's one of the things, like, I know about her. I got a chance to work with her a lot of times one-on-one, during her last year. But with that question that she asked is a question that, just working in the academic realm, I get all the time, right? So it's like, what do we do? And it's like, some schools are better at preparing you post-graduation than others, and unfortunately, there is no set roadmap on how to do this stuff. Like, there, you know what I mean? Everybody takes so many different paths. And I have students, that ask me all the time, it's like, well, do I just start acting? Because guess what? Especially being in New York or wherever you are, it's going to be competitive, right? And sometimes you're going to hear a lot of no's, and that could also discourage you. And then some people will say, okay, well, do I look for an internship, or do I go to, graduate school, or do I go to film school? Unfortunately, we can't really give you any set answers on that, right? One of the things that Kyle was talking about is that through internships, is that what you may find is that you may discover a love for something that you never even thought you would like, right? Like, you might get into whether it's casting or the production side or working along with the ADs or something, and you'd be like, oh, wow, my whole life I've been studying acting and I didn't even know I would like this side of it. That's what internships do for you, right? Like, it's a chance to work on a different job, all right, and to discover if you even like it or not. You know what I'm saying? So if you do have an opportunity to take an internship, yeah, because guess what? Take advantage of it. You may discover a love for something that you never even thought you would like. Or if you decide, hey, going to film school, there's no set guarantee that just because you're going to go to film school that you're going to be successful out of that. Because after film school, what they're doing is, in whether it's film school or it's graduate school, or you go to a conservatory program, they're preparing you, but ultimately when you're done, you still got to do the work. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's not any specific way on how to do it. I think the main thing for me is that, I went to film school, I got some tools, but where I am wasn't based off of that. It was based off of, like, me getting out here hustling and finding what I was good at and what I was passionate about. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, you got to, direct your roadmap into what you're passionate about, and internships will help you discover that. But even if you decide to go to a graduate school or whatever, guess what? The work doesn't stop. That's, going to graduate school only, fine tunes your craft, or film school only gives you the tools, but ultimately you still got to do the work afterwards.
Yeah. And you can even look at, Robin, Hannah, and Brayton here. And I think one of the main reasons why they even created this network is because exactly they did internships. They found passions they didn't really expect. They've fallen into, departments they never thought they would, or turn their head in a department that they thought they loved and went somewhere totally different. But the reason why they created something like that is because the number one thing that you want to do to try to get in any department in this industry is network. And that's why I think the Film Neighbor Network is so important, is because it's giving you a network and an opportunity to do that. I'll come in and I'll talk to different lectures and different colleges and stuff like that, or Zooms and stuff like that. And my first thing is, like, you got to network. That's the number one thing. And that starts by everybody who's in the room right now that you're seeing on Zoom or in the classroom or anything like that, that's your network. And I always sit there and say, introduce yourself, create a baseline, start talking the communications line now, because you don't know who you're going to run into, or it might give you an opportunities, in the future. And, and I've done it for so many classes, and unfortunately, maybe even only 10% ever keeps that network of communication, and guess who are those people? Hannah, Robin, Brayton. You know what I mean? Like, those are people who jump on that stuff like that, and always keep it up. And I think what's good about the Buffalo mentality is that, not to promote more of Hannah's stuff, but we are a city of good neighbors. And with that is making sure that you keep humble and level-headed, and make sure that you try to get try to create a friendship out of that network and stuff like that too, because that's going to go a lot farther than some mentalities that come out of the West Coast and the East Coast, which is more of that mentality of, I got to get up the ladder and I'm going to do whatever way possible. You keep that network friendship based, I think you're going to get a lot farther than you expect.
Kyle, you are too kind. That means a lot. We do have 2 more questions coming in from Daniel and Kyle. Daniel Greer, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, a question about the business side of this. I know that Buffalo is great, but a lot of these productions are coming because of the tax break, which is great.
Yeah.
Do you guys, and I'd like to hear that you guys would like to cast more than background, but day players and perhaps some leads. And I'm hoping that if you're able to do that, you guys get paid more, and that it saves these productions companies. If they can hire local actors, or I'm asking that question. If they hire local actors, does that help with their bottom line? And hopefully they'll be more receptive to that as more and more productions come into town.
Yeah, so basically, in order to get the tax credit, you basically have to hire from that state or that region in order to get that. So them coming in, and if they decide to hire cast in Buffalo, that's going to benefit them on the back end with the tax break and stuff like that. So yes, but crews also a little bit differently than like going and like buying, like getting trailers and getting different hotel rooms and stuff like that, because they're individuals. But it does, because since we're a business base, it does help us. And like I said, we do background, we do day players, we do principals for more smaller stuff. But our hope is that building this collaboration, building this network, is that when it isn't just one film at a time coming through Buffalo, when it's 2, 3, 4, we're overwhelmed, and Buffalo is just another, film city and all that, is that we're able to up our stakes and be able to have our hands in multiple pots, and being able to cast main roles as main casting directors that aren't just smaller indie films and stuff like that, but tier films coming through.
Good, thanks.
The thing to piggyback off of that, Dan, too, is there's as part of the tax credit. So there's the background incentive, which it helps to further the incentive on the credit for companies that will hire background that in the area. So that's one thing that we try to push for to some extent. And then the other thing is that now that we are a formed company, Casting Buffalo, we are considered we're a vendor, an approved vendor for the New York State tax credit. So even though we don't sell anything that is like a good per se, we are a business, and the business we conduct is something that's considered essential to productions that would be coming through the area. So we could be essentially, a good part of a company getting a good bit of a kickback through the tax credit.
Good. Thank you.
All right, and we'll wrap up here with our longtime viewer and fan of Film Neighbor Network, Kyle. Go ahead with your question.
Oh, yes, I am the teacher's pet of this network. So I was wondering, just like a technical term, is the extras casting department, is that a separate department in itself, or is that part of casting?
It all falls underneath the casting department, but usually on films, they might hire different companies. So like on tier films, on majors and stuff like that, they'll have an actual casting director which will deal with the main principals. And then you will have sometimes your local casting depending on different cities. So sometimes if they're shooting in Buffalo, they might have a New York City casting director for day players or for other supporting roles. They might have an LA one. And they're all working on the same exact thing, but they're just looking for certain roles. And then you might have a local to just Buffalo, which is like kind of where we come in and all that. And we'll play the local key because they figure that some day players or some actors or supporting they can get from here. And then you have extras casting, which sometimes are totally different companies compared to those that they go. And because they know that they're able to find the amount of people mass. And so you might have a casting department on like a crew sheet, but you might actually have like 4 or 5 companies working on casting. And sometimes it's just one, sometimes it's just 2. So it depends. It depends on how big the job is, how specific the job is, and how much time you have to do that job as well.
Okay. So I guess then with that is like, so what's the hierarchy of like the positions in the casting department then? Like, how does that work? Because I know there's like the casting director, but like who else what other like roles are there, I guess?
You have casting associates. So associates are pretty much just right-hand man. It's really not even, it's a title thing, but it's not really like a title thing. So basically like the casting director is just kind of the point person, or like the person that would get in trouble, pretty much.
And that's the thing. We do that because even within Casting Buffalo, right? So we have, our company is set up with a dynamic where whoever potentially is responsible for booking that job, in other words, like whoever the producer reached out to first, that person is the point person, right? And then like the other 2 of us, we're also assisting that person, and we also have like our compensation structure with Casting Buffalo is set up that way. So it's like whatever producer reached out, who's responsible for booking that job for this company, that person essentially would be the point person, and the rest of us, are the associates as well.
Yeah. And then after that, you would have assistants, casting assistants, which are going to be doing more of like the mundane, dirty work. So maybe sending certain emails, maybe like doing appointment stuff, gathering that type of information. They're kind of like gathering, organizing, and all that. But those are really only the 3, or they might be like in control of a video camera while we're doing a casting call or something like that. But those are about the 3 positions that we really
get. An intern too.
Well, yeah, but I feel like a casting intern comes into that as well. But it's casting intern is basically if they can't afford an assistant, then that's what the intern's pretty much doing, what an assistant's job is. But sometimes that comes down to the production, not necessarily us. Our hope is to, of course, as a growing company, is that we're able to bank enough, income that we can turn around and we can start hiring assistants to help us with the stuff. So we don't even have to go through the production itself. We can turn around and have someone on doing part-time work with us as an assistant when the going gets rough.
Gotcha. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you for those questions, everybody. Kyle Mecker, do you mind sharing your screen real quick just to show us the Casting Buffalo site?
Yes. So this is our site. It's right at castingbuffalo.com. This is our homepage that you're going to land on and all that. Title, a little bit about us. And the main thing is if you're an actor trying to get into Art Network, we make sure that you, right front and center, can join Art Network. And this is a little breakdown of how to join it, what we need, and then you hit join and it takes you to our talent profile. So if you are an actor or if you are trying to become a casting director or want to get in the casting department, these are some of the things that we have to look for. So this is not everything's mandatory, but of course, we're getting your age range, we're getting an actor's age range, gender, ethnicity. We want to know where they're coming from. If we know that they're local or if they're regional, or if what region are they from? What if they are willing to be a local hire. So a local hire is that you might live in New York City, but you might have a place to stay. Basically saying that we're not going to have production pay for your ride to get there, but you know, they might give you per diem or something like that, but you're willing to be a local because you have a connection in order to be there. This helps with a lot of actors who are kind of just been either become SAG eligible, want to become SAG eligible, or are right in the beginning trying to get work, because sometimes they're only looking for local hires. But if you're willing to offset that cost to become an actor or as a local hire, you know, it's worth it to get that exposure and get that experience on film sets. So resume, you can attach the resume like Peter mentioned before. It's more of just seeing what experience that what you have. It's not so much that like we're going to really go by that. It's going by the performance. Headshot, make sure it's up to date. Make sure it's a real headshot. Make sure it's off a plain background, that you're lit well. We can see your face. So this way we can see you in any role, not you know, unless the role is something specific and you have a headshot that fits that role, then submit that headshot. If you're union, SAG or not, what your SAG number is if you are union. This way, that SAG number is going to give us a better chance to go do clearance. So SAG will have this thing where productions want to make sure that you are in good standing with the Screen Actors Guild, making sure that you've paid your dues, that you're with the union and stuff like that. So this is going to help us give clearance to make sure that we can actually hire you, and that you're good with standing for Screen Actors Guild. If it's not in union, that doesn't apply. You know, we're gonna, and a lot of commercials are like that. It's just basically whoever fits best for that job. Size chart is a little bonus that we have on here, but it's important because it gives a head start for the wardrobe departments. Basically, provide whatever information you can, but it's something that we can pass along to them if they ask for it, or if they're looking for a specific look. Sometimes for photo doubles, sometimes for stand-ins, they need to be a certain height, certain build, something like that, to match an actor. And that'll help us right off the bat to sit there and say, hey, our actor is 6'5" and a brunette and 200 pounds. How are we going to look? Well, we can go right in our network, find exactly who fits with that, and the complexion wise as well. And then it's basic information. Do you want to be a background actor? Do you have the interest of being a background actor, photo double, extra? If you have stunt performer, which is kind of, stunts is kind of its own department, but sometimes we help assist them in finding that special abilities. For True Adventure of Wolf Boy, we needed to find people who were more like circus performers. So people who were able to do fire twirling and stuff like, so like, or can juggle, or, you know, anything ridiculous as well, you know, like, so sometimes special, can you dance, or can you do choreography, something like that, that'll help benefit you. Special abilities are great to know. We just added this, which is something doing a picture card, because sometimes actors, for background actors, they're looking for you to come with your car on set. So like on A Quiet Place 2, when they shot here, we needed old cars and stuff like that. So if you're willing to have your car as a picture car, you would come with your car, you get paid. Sometimes the cars only play, and sometimes you're in the car as well. But it's the same way of, it plays in the casting department as well. We have that. And then the last part gets into being minors. So if you were under 18, is making sure that you're cleared by New York State by getting a child performer permit, and making sure that the feature or the show or anything is able to hire minors and stuff like that. So that's our talent profiles and all that. The rest of the website, you know, when we have casting notices, we're going to post them right off top. And then the rest is just kind of getting into who we are, what we're about. And then if you are looking to hire us as a project, we have both the 2 different projects you can. And again, it's a sheet to fill out so we can learn. We have an event, which this is something that I think is happening right now. And then basic contact, and then our partners and allies and stuff like that. So that's our site. We try to make it as easy as to navigate, but if there's feedback even from the outside to make it better for you as an actor or someone to hire us, we're open to hear it from there.
Thank you, Kyle. I'm going to screen share myself real quick to show you the donation that we are going to be sending. The charity that we're going to be donating to this time is the Joseph Giambra Legacy Fund. We do not ask for any money in return for giving these, and we don't get paid to do this. So we do ask that if you are available and you want to show appreciation for what Film Neighbor Network is doing here, we ask that you do make a donation. I'm screen sharing now just to show you the site that will be linked, just to kind of show you exactly what to do. You fill out your name here, and you are able to skip the tribute donation, joint donation, matching funds, everything, all the way down to donation details. You're going to want to take this drop-down menu all the way down to other, and then type in the Joseph Giambra Legacy Fund in this particular spot, so they know exactly who you would like to be donating to. And this charity was chosen by Harry. Harry, would you mind just saying a little bit about why you chose this charity for this particular time?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. So myself, Peter, and Kyle were all very close to Joe Giambra, whom many of you know was a very well-respected local actor. He was a writer, he was a producer, he wore a lot of hats, was really a true Renaissance man here. And, you know, he really helped the three of us in many ways, whether it was just providing support and wisdom, or you know, knowledge, or so many things that he did. And he really, I know myself, and I think the others as well, in Casting Buffalo, you know, every day that we work, whether it's related to casting or filmmaking, you know, I think we try to embody the spirit that Joe had, which was to really embrace the film community here, and to be as active and constantly creating and always working in the business, you know. So that's what we do, and I appreciate you guys supporting that fund in his name, and it's a nice gesture. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Harry. So yeah, as he said, we do make a donation on behalf of the Film Neighbor Network to a charity when we do each class like this. That money comes from selling our merch. If you'd like to represent, if you want to show it off here, Kyle and Robin, we all have t-shirts, we have mugs, and we have buttons designed by Hannah Waltz. We would really appreciate you representing and showing our merchandise so that we can make more donations in the future. That about wraps it up here. Thank you very much, Harry, Kyle, and Peter, for all of your great insight. And thank you to everybody who joined on today. If you enjoyed this, go and watch it later. Again, we'll have it on our Facebook and YouTube pages, and then go follow the link in the comments right now to go buy some merch if you'd like to support us financially. Thank you, everybody. That's all for today. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Brayton, are you and